Everything changed in a matter of seconds. You know that bitter, freezing silence that falls over a stadium when a season just dies? Yeah, we all remember that heartbreaking playoff loss to the New England Patriots. Look, that's the kind of loss that doesn't just end a single season. It literally alters the DNA of a franchise forever. It's the kind of profound, agonizing defeat that just lingers. It haunts the film room, the weight room, and all those quiet, desperate moments of the offseason. Welcome to NFL Nexus. I am absolutely thrilled to take you through this explainer today because we are going to meticulously dissect the monumental stakes of the Houston Texans' 2026 offseason. Before we step onto the gridiron together, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button on this explainer, drop your thoughts in the comments down below, and really, consider supporting the channel by becoming a member. Your support is exactly what fuels these massive deep dives. Okay, let's dive into this because what the Texans are building right now is nothing short of a cinematic obsession with absolute perfection. So here is the ultimate question. Can CJ Stroud finish the job? Just feel the weight of those words for a second. We are entering the 2026 offseason, and you and I both know the championship window in the National Football League does not stay open. It doesn't patiently wait for you, it slams shut. Slowly, mercilessly, the pressure is mounting on Stroud's shoulders right now. That precious rookie contract grace period, yeah, it's evaporating. The entire organization is looking directly at their franchise quarterback, knowing full well that the pieces are moving, the financial clock is ticking, and the expectation is absolutely no longer just to be competitive. The expectation is a Super Bowl ring. Section 1. Stroud's Mastermind. Evolution. Year 4. Pressure. Okay, let's transition from the macro view right down to the micro. I want you to imagine the relentless Texas heat just beating down on the Houston Methodist Training Center. It's mandatory minicamp. This is the cinematic setting of a football laboratory where the true season begins long before September rolls around. We are zooming in on the granular, obsessive details of the Texans' offensive strategy here. Because listen, this isn't just about throwing pretty spirals anymore. This is about CJ Stroud evolving from a really talented passer into an elite, unstoppable mastermind. Year 4 pressure is a completely different beast. The tension right now in that building is unprecedented, and it's mostly because of the trajectory we've witnessed so far. Think back to 2023. It was an explosion, a rookie campaign that completely shocked the world and set this impossible standard. But the NFL adjusts. It always adjusts, right? 2024 and 2025, well, they were characterized as up and down seasons. We saw flashes of sheer, undeniable brilliance mixed with the turbulent reality of professional football defenses adapting to his tape. Defensive coordinators across the league started deploying these disguised cover 2 shells. They were rolling safeties at the very last millisecond of the snap and throwing highly complex, simulated pressures his way specifically, just to test his processing speed. They wanted to muddy the picture. Now we arrive at 2026. This is the make or break year 4. The gravity of entering this specific season cannot be overstated. If he wants to transcend from being a good quarterback to a legendary one, this is the exact moment on the timeline where the leap absolutely must happen. He has to beat the sophisticated defenses that just spent 2 full years studying his every single tendency. But to truly understand where this team is going, we have to look at the scars they carry with them. The nightmare against New England in the divisional round. Man, it was a visceral, agonizing afternoon. The Houston defense played like absolute warriors out there. They held the line, they kept the game within reach, they gave the team a legitimate, real chance to win in the second half. But the offense completely collapsed. It was a nightmare day for Stroud and that entire unit. We're talking a total systemic breakdown when it mattered most. There were brutal miscommunications on routes, missed blocking assignments up front, and drives that just continuously stalled out. It was painful to watch, and trust me, that sour taste, that exact feeling of helplessness, is driving every single micro decision inside that building right now. Which brings us to this. Head coach DeMeco Ryans delivered an incredibly revealing quote at minicamp. He said, "CJ has ideas and thoughts on different plays and formations. They have to work hand in hand." I want us to really spend a moment here and heavily dissect this, because honestly, this right here is where the entire 2026 season will be decided. What Ryans is acknowledging to the press is a fundamental shift in Stroud's pre-snap autonomy. CJ is no longer just running the plays that are called into his earpiece by the sideline. He is demanding a voice. He has specific thoughts on formations, on leverage, on exactly how to manipulate those safeties before the ball is even snapped. He wants to identify the Mike linebacker himself, shift the tight ends to create highly favorable matchups, and dictate the entire flow of the game on his own terms. Now, doing this requires a highly complex, almost fragile ecosystem of trust between Stroud and his offensive coordinator, Nick Caley. Ryans notes that this coach-player relationship is headed in the right direction, that they are communicating better. But just think about the microdynamics of that relationship for a second. When a quarterback starts altering the architecture of an offense, friction is inevitable. Actually, scratch that. It's a necessary friction. Caley has his overarching grand scheme, but Stroud is the one actually seeing the geometry of the field in real time with 300-pound men trying to take his head off. To reach the Super Bowl, their minds have to meld perfectly. They have to work hand in hand, compromising, adjusting, and trusting each other implicitly in the fraction of a second right before that play clock expires. This evolution from a system executor to a system creator, it's the ultimate threshold for Stroud.
Section 2. Protecting the franchise, the 2026 investment.
So the absolutely crucial point here is this. If Stroud is stepping into this mastermind role, right, if he's demanding pre-snap adjustments and highly complex formations, he needs time. He needs a fortress around him. You simply cannot run a masterclass offense if you are constantly running for your life. That pivots our narrative directly to the trenches, protecting the franchise. Take a look at this number, 25. It represents the 25th most important player on the Houston Texans' 2026 roster heading into this critical season. And here is the dramatic, kind of mind-bending reality of that number. The player holding that specific rank hasn't played a single solitary snap in the National Football League yet. Not one. Enter Keelan Rutledge, a rookie offensive lineman out of Georgia Tech. Now, the Texans front office made a highly specific, very calculated micro decision during the draft. They didn't just passively sit back and wait for him to fall to them at pick 28. No, they traded up 2 spots to secure him at number 26 overall. That capital expenditure tells you everything you need to know about how they view him. So, what specific traits made him worth that aggressive trade-up? Well, during his time in the ACC, he displayed a violently heavy punch at the point of attack. I mean, he was consistently moving massive defensive tackles entirely against their will. The front office watched hours of film of him finishing blocks by literally driving guys into the turf. They recognized the exact mold of grit, toughness, and relentless mentality that this franchise desperately demands on the interior. He isn't just a draft pick. He is viewed as the violent, tone-setting missing piece of the entire offensive puzzle. And why, you might ask, is he so incredibly vital right now? Well, it's because of the agonizing history of this offensive line over the last 2 years. The mandate in Houston is clear. Think back to 2024. The sheer inconsistency up front caused a complete derailment of their offensive production. It broke the system entirely. Stroud was constantly under duress. Then in 2025, things got better, sure, but they only elevated to what we can realistically call top half mediocrity. And let me tell you something, top half mediocrity does not win you a Super Bowl ring. It just doesn't. It gets you bounced by New England in January. It forces your franchise quarterback to rush his throws and check down to the flat when those deep, game-breaking routes just need an extra half second to develop. Rutledge is the designated cure for that exact mediocrity. But let's get into the absolute smallest, grittiest details of his scouting report, because the transition from college to the pros in the trenches is brutal. Rutledge has ideal length, he has that incredible team captain mentality coming out of Georgia Tech. But here's the catch. He spent his college career primarily at right guard, and Houston desperately needs interior versatility, potentially sliding him to center or left guard. The scouting report specifically says he needs body control refinement and footwork tweaks. Now, what does that actually mean for a viewer at home? Well, it means in the NFL, when a 330-pound veteran defensive tackle stunts into the A-gap with elite, terrifying burst, a quarter-inch misstep with your left foot means your quarterback is flat on his back. Footwork tweaks aren't just minor, friendly suggestions from the offensive line coach. They are literally the difference between an anchored block and a totally collapsed pocket. It's about hip fluidity. It's about maintaining a consistently low center of gravity while simultaneously processing complex post-snap line shifts. And oh yeah, snapping the ball perfectly if he ends up playing center. It is a massive, microscopic learning curve for a rookie who is stepping into a scheme that has zero margin for error.
Section 3. The contingency plan, bracing for impact.
Which naturally introduces a pretty terrifying tension. What happens if the rookie experiment fails? What if that footwork isn't tweaked in time for week 1? Or worse, what if the devastating, unforgiving reality of NFL injuries strikes the offensive line yet again? You must brace for impact. You absolutely must have a contingency plan. And that brings us to the meticulous comparison sitting right at the heart of the offensive line room today. Keelan Rutledge versus Jake Andrews. Rutledge represents the massive athletic upside, the long-term solution, the incredibly high ceiling. But Jake Andrews, man, he is the ultimate safety net. Andrews started throughout all of the 2025 season, and here is exactly why the coaching staff loves him. He gave up 0 sacks in crucial must-win division matchups down the stretch. 0. He reads defensive stunts like a 10-year veteran and has built up a literal mountain of trust with the coaching staff and, most importantly, with the quarterback. If the rookie struggles with those body control refinements against starting-caliber NFL defensive tackles, or if disaster strikes, Andrews is the break glass in case of emergency option. The tension between playing the high-upside rookie who desperately needs live reps and the trusted veteran who provides a guaranteed solid baseline of protection will define the early, brutal, sweaty weeks of training camp.
Section 4. Scraping the UFL barrel, the final roster margins.
Now, we are going to shift our focus away from the multi-million-dollar first-round picks down to the absolute fringes, the absolute bottom of the 90-man roster. Because if you truly know football, you know that Lombardi trophies are won or lost by the bottom 10% of your team. It's the special teamers, the depth pieces, the guys who are out there fighting for their professional lives on every single snap. The Texans are currently turning over every single stone, looking for the final edge in the UFL. They recently brought in players from the Houston Gamblers for workouts. And listen, we are treating these minor tryouts with the exact same dramatic weight as a massive, blockbuster free agent signing. Why? Because in Week 14, when 3 of your starters are injured and the freezing winter weather hits, these are the unknown men who have to step onto the field, look the opponent in the eye, and hold the line.
Consider a guy like Marcus Yarns, a 5'11", 198-pound running back. He just grinded out 345 total rushing yards in the UFL against defenses that were absolutely loaded with former Division I athletes trying to claw their way back into the league. He was cut by the Saints back in 2025. Now, he's fighting in an intense bare-knuckle battle for the RB3 or maybe RB4 spot behind David Montgomery and Woody Marks. The race behind those top 2 guys is completely wide open, and Houston relies heavily on a rotation to keep legs fresh late in the agonizingly long season. Yarns isn't just out there looking for a paycheck, he's trying to prove he's a vital piece. He's trying to secure a practice squad spot. He has to prove his absolute worth on punt coverage, on kickoff returns, and most importantly, on blitz pickup. He has to be ready to be elevated to the active roster the very second a starter's ankle gets rolled on a Sunday afternoon. On the defensive side of the ball, we need to look incredibly closely at Eugene Asante. 6 foot flat, 218 pounds, he racked up 34 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and 2 forced fumbles for the Gamblers. He was flying all over the field on tape, showcasing elite closing speed. So why is he here getting a workout? It's directly because of the season-ending quad injury to EJ Speed. That devastating, catastrophic injury has blown the linebacker depth chart wide open in Houston, leaving a gaping, vulnerable hole in their coverage packages and their run defense. The Texans are literally bleeding for depth at the second level. Asante's tryout is a direct, urgent reaction to that trauma. He's been bouncing around on practice squads for Cleveland and Atlanta, learning highly complex schemes, but never actually getting the call up to the active roster. He is desperately looking for his first regular season NFL snap. The immense, raw hunger in these players fighting at the absolute margins is exactly what fuels the competitive fire of a championship roster during those grueling, exhausted Wednesday practices in November.
Section 5. The Super Bowl Mandate. No margin for error. As we pull back the lens on all of this, we begin to clearly see the grand design. From the mastermind evolution of franchise quarterback Stroud demanding to read complex coverages at the line of scrimmage, to the highly specific micromechanics of rookie Keelan Rutledge's footwork in the A-gap, all the way down to the UFL tryouts desperately hoping to replace injured veteran linebackers, it is a cinematic saga unfolding right before our eyes in real time, and it all points to one undeniable truth: the Super Bowl mandate. There is absolutely no margin for error left in Houston, because the defense is ready. DeMeco Ryans has engineered a defensive unit that is already operating at an elite, terrifying championship level. We saw it against New England. They are fearsome, they are violent, they dictate the pace of the entire game, and they force game-changing turnovers. They are prepared to win it all right now, which means the ultimate burden, the immense, crushing weight of expectation, falls squarely and undeniably on the offense to finally catch up.
The pieces are on the board, but the clock is ticking. The 2026 season is staring them down. Make sure you drop a comment below for the algorithm. Tell me, do you think CJ Stroud and this newly fortified offensive line can finally carry this team to the promised land? Because as we examine this roster from top to bottom, from the stars to the practice squad, you get the profound sense that the true battle has only just begun. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today on NFL Nexus. Please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and consider becoming a member to support the work we do here. I will see you all in the next deep dive.